Okay, so today we're going to look at acrylic paints and how you can use acrylic paints at home for fun, for a bit of me time. So what you see around me here is some stuff to help you paint with acrylics. Now, all right, so the first thing is, what do we paint on when we paint with acrylics? So acrylics are so versatile. You can paint on wood, you can paint on metal, you can paint on glass, paneling. It's just so remarkably versatile because it's basically liquid plastic, okay? But what we tend to paint on are two different types of canvases. This, as you can see, is on a wooden frame. So we'll call this either a stretched canvas, a box canvas, a frame canvas. You know, there's different ways to refer to this. And you'll see that it is textured, right? You can see a fabric texture there. And it's also white. So this one has been painted with gesso and it's ready to go, all right? This one is exactly the same thing. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but you can see the grains of the fabric, right? Also painted white, also been gessoed and ready to go. Gesso is basically an impermeable solution that's put on this surface to allow paint to adhere, but to not go through. And it's got a mixture of various things in it, and you can make your own gesso, and we might look at a video one day to do that. But most of the canvases that you can buy in the shops are pre-gessoed and ready to go. You just take the plastic off and go. This one, as you can see, is thin, and this one is called a canvas panel. I love these because they're very sturdy, okay, very sturdy, and they frame really well, okay. So I often will do this for classes, and then this will be used if people are going to want to hang them. This is a 1 centimeter, but you can get them up to 5 centimeters. So the nice ones, when I do a commission, for instance, I'll usually opt for a 5 centimeter if it's going to hang by itself. If it's going to go in a frame, then I'll go for this size. Okay, so that's what you paint on. Then we need a place to actually put our paints when we're painting, okay? You can do all sorts of things. So you can use a plate, and you can use it like this if you want, or what I've started to do is to layer saran wrap on it so that I can take it off. The good thing about that is you've got a nice wide, large surface for putting your paints on, and the downside, however, is that it's quite large. It takes up a fair bit of space. And then when you need to go and, you know, take a break to make dinner or something, you're struggling to then keep these paints wet, you know, when you run off to do dinner. And if you do have something like that, then what you'll do, and you need to go and nip away from your work for a little bit, you'll take a spritz bottle like this. You can pick these up in the makeup section of any sort of Chinese store, dollar store or something, and you literally will just spritz your paints, right, to keep them damp, and then come back. You can try to cover it with, you know, you can try to cover it even with one of these that hasn't been opened, right, but you still get air. So there's another possibility as well, and I paint so much with yogurt lids. So the nice thing about this is this becomes your palette, and you can just dab your paints in here, and then if you need to nip away, you just do this, and you can come back, and it is gonna last for days. If you want, you can spritz it a little bit just to be extra cautious, but not too much, because otherwise the paints will all bleed into each other. And then put that on, and then come back, and it'll keep it for days. There's another possibility, ice cream tubs. Now, what some people will do is they'll put a paper towel down in here, which they wet, and then they'll lay a piece of wax paper, parchment paper on top, and then they'll put their paints in there. And again, put this lid on, and the moisture in the paint and the moisture in the moistened paper towel will keep this ready and good so that you can go away from your project and come back, okay? Again, if you're working on a smaller project and you don't have too many colors, then you can play around with a butter dish, a hummus dish, anything. So these are really useful to hang on to. And if you're going to be traveling with your paint to and fro to an art class, for instance, then something this size is probably quite a good option, you know, or one of the hummus containers or something like that. And that way you don't ruin your paints, you don't waste your paints, and you can keep them moist. Okay? All right, so those are the first two things, what to paint on and what to put your paints on. Now, what to paint with. You know, you're just going to build up a collection over time. I'm going to show you some of the key things to pay attention to with your brushes. A lot of you are already going to have a nice collection of brushes, so this might not be very useful. But to give you an idea of the collection of brushes you might acquire over time, take a look. Right? I have got a ridiculous collection, okay, of things that I use here. Right? So I am just going to show you some good key ones that you can use. So this is a 1-inch. This is good. I use this stuff for watercolor. It was bought for watercolor, but I mean, you can see I use this all the time. This is an expensive brush. You can see this is a Grumbacher brand. This is an expensive brush. You do not need to spend money on expensive brushes. This one is an Artix from the Chinese store. It came in a pack of 3 or 5, I can't quite remember, for maybe €3, right? I love the arc on this. It's a really nice synthetic brush. It's very slidey but firm, but not too firm, because you really want those bristles to have some give and some flexibility. This one for texturing, stippling, really rough bristled brush, dead cheap. I mean, but great to have on hand. A toothbrush for splattering, an absolute must if you're going to work with acrylics. Okay, nice firm bristle old toothbrush. Fan brush, quite helpful, right, for doing grass and trees. Just a standard little flat brush. And things like, I mean, some of my brushes are in bad condition, but I don't throw them away because they have use, you know. Things like this with a nice point on it, right? You see that, for getting into little pointy areas. And a couple of small little ones like this. This guy is a nail art brush, but really good for doing very, very fine detail. And you've got to be careful. The important thing to remember with brushes is that when you wash them out and you wash them with soap, you want to restore their position. Believe it or not, you can actually put it in your mouth and just slide it out of your mouth again, just to keep that. You can even take a little bit of soap and put the soap on to keep it in position if water alone is not. Just for, we'll do another video another day on actually brush care, because it's important, otherwise these things get destroyed over time. So that's brushes. Okay, now the simple bit, actually. What you need to be able to wipe your brushes on something, and you need a water dish. I usually use like a yogurt container, okay, or some sort of a jar. You need paper towel generally, and then because I paint so much, as you can see, I've got a bunch of them hanging here, right? I use microfiber cloths. I got these ones from Costco. They're brilliant. And in an enormous pack from Costco. So you need something like this to be able to dry your brush on. Acrylic paints will not come out of your clothing, so you need to make sure that you are wearing clothing that's appropriate for painting. And you can allow the paint to dry on this, no problem, and then wash it. The paint's not going to come out. And, you know, some of these areas you can feel here. are crusty, but this will last me for years. I will paint with one of these for years. Okay. All right. Now the paints. You got a couple of things. You've got, number one, you've got acrylic paint in a tube. And number two, a nice modern addition is you've got acrylic paint in a marker. And then I just had the pleasure of buying something new and trying to think where I put them now. Aha, this one is acrylic spray paint, but we're not going to get into that with our basics class. But acrylic paint is super, super, super versatile. Now I want to show you some of these things. Paints. Okay, I'm just going to go through, different paints with different brands so that you can see what's going on. In Portugal here, you're going to go into a Chinese shop, and this is going to be a very readily available brand, SV. It's great. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I have loads and loads and loads of this stuff. My only complaint about this one is that the finish is matte. Now, I paid $2.50 for 100 mils. Not bad. These guys might do a pack with these small tubes, and if you can find that, it's worth picking up, okay? If I'm doing a commission and I want more of a gloss finish on the work, I will pair this paint with this medium. This is a gloss medium. If you can find this, buy it and let other people know and pick it up for friends, because this is hard to find. And it's great. So what you can do is you can take a matte acrylic paint and you can add this medium to it and it will turn it into a glossy paint. Okay? So if you can find that, brilliant. If you want to make this more see-through, you've got a couple of options, and you can mix it with water, which risks breaking down the integrity of the paint. Or, believe it or not, you can mix it with glue. Any kind of glue works. Just a kid's school glue is fine. And you can mix it with the glue and it will make it more transparent without breaking down the integrity. So this is a small bottle of this. Is probably something worth having in your collection as well. And you can play around with that. Okay, so that's SV. Now, the other thing that you can find in the shops a lot is this brand in Portugal, which is ACRYLICS. Now, ACRYLICS I really like, and I like it because it's a glossy finish. Now, so what I tend to do is my first layer of paint I'll put on with SV, okay? And my surface layers of paint I'll tend to put on with ACRYLICS, or I'll mix an ACRYLICS with an SV, right? I'll mix these brands together. The brands don't really matter. I'm going to show you how many different brands of paint I kind of work with. It doesn't really matter. You're going to pick up a few and you're going to see how they work and you're going to mix them together, and you can mix any acrylic paint with any acrylic paint, okay? You can even mix acrylic paint with this, which is a tempera, and this gives a nice sheen. So you can pick this up in the Chinese stores as well, all sorts of things. Again, $2.50 for 250 mils. You know, this one I bought in Canada. This is a tempera that I bought in Canada, $2.50 Canadian dollars for 250 mils. And you just put a little bit of this stuff, mix it with a bit of this, and you get a completely different effect. And you get that really, really nice, fine sparkle, you know, or you just tint your paint a little bit. I love mixing these things together. At Action in Portimao, here in the Algarve, we've got access to this brand, which is a Dutch brand. This is also a matte finish paint. The pigmentation is not as good as these. And when I say the pigmentation, I mean these are quite thick in terms of their color and their coverage, okay? This is a little bit thinner, but it's still good. And it's really great, certainly for your base layers and building up. And then you might save your surface layers for something like this, or another brand that finishes the way that you want it to finish. But this is like $1.99 for 250 mils. Honest to God, you can't beat it. ACRYLICS brand as well. Pay attention. Look for things that are acrylic. Look for things that are neon. Personally, I love having this stuff just to boost a color or do a wash, you know, just enhance something in some way. Okay, these are a slightly different type of tube, right? They come in a bottle like this with a flip lid. Okay. These in Canada, we typically will call toll paints, but they are acrylic paints, and we use them oftentimes in Canada to paint on wood, but they can be used to paint on canvas panels as well. They are a great coverage. You can see really, really, really good coverage. These ones I buy at the dollar store or Dollarama or something like that in Canada. They're pretty inexpensive. Great coverage. You can hear that noise. Nice and fluid. This one I bought at Action in Portimao here in the Algarve. The coverage is not as good with these ones, so I haven't quite figured out yet how they work. I haven't experimented enough with them yet. You can see I haven't even put the color on the top there. This brand, however, is brilliant. I love it. I'm going to try to get my hands on more of it. Americana. So I bought this one in Canada. The coverage for this is fabulous. The level of pigmentation, the richness of the color is brilliant. I absolutely love it. And for all of them, they have a matte finish. So if I want to gloss it up, then I will use this gloss medium. And again, it's hard to get your hands on this, but if you can find it, get it. Yeah. Here, we can also find different brands that are a glossy finish. So this Stellum, I think it is, a Chinese shop in Portugal, here in the Algarve. Nice glossy finish. The coverage with their metallic ones tends to be better than the coverage with their plain colors. These are a bit more see-through than your SV, but it's worth picking up if you can find these. They're not very widely available, but if you can find them, it's worth picking up and adding to your collection. Same with this one 1MI Store. Again, great coverage, good glossy finish on it, and worth buying, you know. Here I've got two SVs. I've got a metallic, right? I've got a gold. They usually are more expensive, the gold ones, and the fluorescent ones are usually more expensive as well. These little 45 ml tubes are brilliant if you're going to travel around with your acrylics. They're a nice, small, portable size. And then there's these things. They come in long sets, a box with multiple colors. And to start off with, this is not a bad idea. I just want to let you know of two brands and what I think of them, having used both. This is Prima. I really like working with Prima watercolor paper, but these acrylic paints of theirs are very, 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 very matte. So it's okay, in my opinion, to pick these up if you really are very happy with a very matte finish, and or you can get your hands on one of these. If you can't, and you still want to buy a set of these, it's fine, but I would say use it for your base layer, your blocking layer of paint. And then this one I've really been pleased with. This is the ACRYLICS. And the ACRYLICS comes in a set as well. These are 12 ml tubes, and it is the small version of this guy. And it's great. It's got good coverage. It's got a nice glossy finish. It's a pleasure to work with, I find. So if you can get yourself a box of the Arctic ones, that's really, really worth picking up. Okay, so that's a little overview. I've got, as you can see, like over here, I've got so many more. I've got loads and loads and loads, and then I've got where is it? Up there, I've got more. We've been working on getting my wall ready for doing larger pieces. But that gives you an idea and a pretty decent overview. So then it leaves the last thing to talk about, which is the acrylic markers. I basically buy, okay, look at my stash of acrylic markers. It's right there. That whole thing is all acrylic markers, all right? So what I tend to do, I love, love, love working with them. It is basically paint that comes out as a marker. And I've got this Campus brand is from Lidl. I tried it when it arrived and I really love it. It's got good coverage. You can't really see through it, which is nice. The only downside to this one is that it tends to take a little bit of extra time to dry. The gold standard are these Poshkas. They're very expensive, depending on which size you get, you know, because you can end up with, no, that's Campus as well. Campus ones look very, very similar to the Poshkas. Oh, if you end up with a big fat guy like this, right, it's more expensive than the skinnier guys, but they're about 3 to 5 euros a pen, depending on what you're buying. They are worth the extra money, however, and if you can get them in a nice set with a range of colors and a range of sizes, then that's worth doing. Another Poshka, a white and black is basically essential. This is a nice one that I bought at, there were 2 packs left and I bought them. I got 24 colors for $8 something, $8.75, $8.95 at Action in Portimao. And what's awesome about this is a brush style. So if I go very lightly, I'll get a nice thin line. Or, you know, I can do this and I can basically use it like a paintbrush. Wonderful for doing decals like this, right? So the suggestion with things like acrylic markers and acrylic paints is to pick up anything that speaks to you and then start to play around with it. And lastly, a bit of masking tape won't go amiss, because you never know when you need a straight line on your work, okay? And then things like rulers, right? Things like pencils, things like erasers, right? All of this kind of stuff, great to have on hand. Okay, well, I hope that is helpful in terms of your tools video, and we will be ready to crack on with actually how to use this stuff on another day.